If you lived in ancient Rome, your stomach would probably turn before breakfast. You wake up in a cramped room in an insula, a Roman apartment building. The walls are cracked, the floor is dusty, and the smell of urine and mold never really leaves. You are not rich. You are not a noble. You are a regular Roman citizen. And that means your diet is going to be ... challenging. Let us start with breakfast. The Romans called it ientaculum, and honestly, it was underwhelming. There is no bacon, no eggs, no coffee. You get a chunk of stale bread, maybe dipped in watered-down wine. If you are lucky, your neighbor might have an old piece of cheese that smells like sour feet. You chew the bread slowly because it is dry and hard. Your teeth hurt because dental care in ancient Rome is, well, non-existent. You might crack a molar before the sun even rises. Now, let us talk about what you might eat later in the day, specifically prandium, the midday meal. If you are a laborer, a soldier, or a tradesman, this will probably be your biggest meal of the day. But big does not mean good. You go to the Thermopolium, basically a Roman fast food stall. The cook, a sweaty man with greasy hands, scoops something that looks like mashed beans and barley onto a clay plate. He throws in a few olives, some sour wine, and maybe a tiny dried fish, bones and all. You bite into the fish and instantly regret it. The texture is like chewing on a broken paperclip. And then there is garum. Oh, the garum. Garum is the soul of Roman flavor. It is also, without exaggeration, one of the most revolting things ever invented in the name of cuisine. Garum is made by fermenting fish guts, usually anchovies, in salt and letting them rot under the sun for several months. Yes, months. The smell alone could knock over a donkey. The Romans poured it on everything. Bread, lentils, boiled vegetables, even desserts. To them, it was the umami of the gods. To you, it smells like something that leaked out of a corpse. If you are feeling fancy, maybe you splurge on moratum, a kind of cheese spread mixed with garlic, vinegar, and herbs. It is pungent, like licking the inside of a sweaty sandal. And if you are wealthy, which you are not, you might attend a dinner party. That is when things get ... wild. A rich Roman banquet, known as a cena, is a full-blown spectacle. You recline on couches while slaves bring out dish after dish. Exotic meats, flamingo tongues, dormice stuffed with pine nuts and honey, sea urchin brains, jellyfish with vinegar sauce. One senator once famously served parrot heads just to shock his guests. Another hosted a dinner where every course was dyed a different color, including purple chicken. You do not eat with forks, because forks have not been invented yet. You use your fingers or a spoon, and then wipe your hands on a servant's tunic. Sanitation is, to put it lightly, optional. If you feel nauseous at this point, that is normal. The ancient Romans believed vomiting was a totally acceptable part of fine dining. Some aristocrats even kept a feather nearby to help them induce it, so they could keep eating more food, more garum, more wine. Let us talk about the wine, by the way. Roman wine is not like the wine you know. First, it is diluted with water, heavily. That is because the wine itself is borderline vinegar. It is bitter, sour, and often mixed with random herbs, resin, or even seawater to mask the flavor. You might say, that sounds awful, and you would be right. But to the Romans, it was just normal. What is not normal, at least by your standards, is defrutum. This is a thick, boiled grape syrup, sometimes used to sweeten wine or desserts. Sounds fine, right? Except Sometimes it was boiled in lead pots. That is right, lead. The kind that poisons your nervous system and kills you slowly. There is even a theory that rich Romans suffered from lead poisoning on a massive scale, rotting from the inside out while enjoying their poisoned puddings. But hey, you are just a regular person. You cannot afford poisoned grape syrup. You are eating boiled cabbage and lentils, maybe some bread, maybe a turnip if it is in season. Also, ancient Roman bread. It is full of sand, literally. Bakers mixed the flour with stone-ground wheat, and that meant grit got into everything. Your teeth get filed down just from eating a sandwich. Assuming you can call boiled cabbage in bread a sandwich. And let us not forget the street food. You pass by vendors shouting in Latin, selling meat skewers of questionable origins. Some of it is pork, some might be dog, some might be rat. It is all charred, covered in spices to hide the fact that it sat in the sun all day. You get one anyway because you are starving. Later that evening, your stomach begins to turn. You lie on your straw mat, holding your belly, groaning. Was it the garum, the fish bones, the possibly diseased meat? It does not matter. You are going to vomit either way. The wealthy Romans did not just eat, they performed eating. Imagine this. You have somehow been invited to a senator's dinner party. Maybe your cousin works as a servant for someone important, or maybe your boss owed you a favor. Either way, you are here now, standing awkwardly at the entrance of a villa big enough to be its own neighborhood. The smell hits you before you even enter. It is a strange mix: roasted meat, overripe fruit, incense, spilled wine, and something, faintly rotten. A slave leads you into the triclinium, the Roman dining room. There are couches on 3 sides of the table, and no one sits. You are supposed to recline, propping yourself up on one elbow, while eating with your other hand. It is supposed to look elegant. It does not. Your back hurts. Your arm cramps. The host, an aging man in a purple-trimmed toga, claps his hands. The first course is served. It is seafood jelly. No, not seafood and jelly. Jelly made from seafood. Fish boiled until it turns to mush, then strained and chilled into a quivering, translucent blob. It jiggles when placed on your plate. You stare at it. It stares back. You eat it anyway, because refusing would be an insult. You eat it anyway, because refusing would be an insult. Next comes a plate of stuffed dormice. Yes, dormice. Little rodents roasted whole, then packed with herbs, nuts, and honey. Their tiny paws are still visible. Their little teeth, too. You take a bite. It is surprisingly tender. But halfway through, you hit something crunchy. You hope it is a pine nut. Then there is fried sow's womb. That is not a metaphor. It is exactly what it sounds like. Served with a dash of pepper and vinegar, chewy, slightly sour. Your gag reflex flutters. More dishes keep coming. Flamingo tongue, ostrich brains, boiled eel in fermented wine sauce. The host beams with pride. He is showing off his wealth by how bizarre the meal is. The rarer the animal, the more impressive. The more organs and offal, the more elite. You sip wine to calm your stomach, but remember, the wine is sharp and mixed with resin. Your throat burns. Someone next to you is already lying on their side, moaning, not from pain, just from fullness. And they are not done yet. Suddenly, musicians begin playing flutes and lyres. Dancers enter the room, performing to distract the guests, while the servants quietly carry out buckets full of vomit. That is not an exaggeration. Roman elites often vomited on purpose during banquets. It was considered sophisticated to eat until you could eat no more, then make room for more. This was not gluttony, this was status. You look around and see men laughing, wiping their mouths, and returning to the table for another round of honey-glazed sparrows. You excuse yourself and find the latrine, a stone bench with holes. There is no privacy. The air smells like death. You try to breathe through your mouth, but that makes it worse. You hurry back before someone notices. By now, dessert is being served. You expect relief, maybe some fruit. No, you get fried pastry shaped like genitalia, filled with sweet cheese and drizzled with honey. The symbolism is very intentional. The Romans were not subtle about sex. There are also dates stuffed with nuts and fish paste. Yes, fish paste for dessert. You take one bite and immediately regret it. Still, the meal is not over. Now come eggs dyed purple, cakes shaped like gods, and a bizarre dish of boiled sow udder soaked in milk and honey. It is sweet, fatty, and disturbingly soft. A slave passes by offering more garum. You shake your head quickly. No more, please. No more garum. As you lean back, groaning, the host begins to brag about a new recipe he tried. Giraffe meat soaked in fermented fig syrup. He says it tastes delicate. You are not sure if he is joking. You look at the others around you. Some are passed out. One is giggling uncontrollably, covered in grape skins. Another is flirting with a dancer in the corner. Someone starts singing an old military song. Off-key. This is a Roman banquet. It is excess. It is pride. It is decay wrapped in gold. And yet, somewhere deep in your gut, you feel it. A strange mix of disgust and awe. You want to vomit. Not just from the food, but from the sheer, overwhelming madness of it all. As the banquet winds down, someone hands you a fig. Just a fig. Simple, clean, sweet. You eat it slowly, savoring the one thing that feels normal. You walk home through the dim streets, your belly heavy and your mind spinning. Tomorrow, it is back to cabbage and lentils. But tonight, you saw how the rich live, and you are not sure they are better off. The next morning, your body still feels heavy. Your mouth is dry, your stomach is bloated, and your head aches from the sour wine and sensory overload. You barely touched most of the dishes, and yet your body is begging for mercy. But you are not a noble. You do not have the luxury of staying in bed. You live in a third-floor apartment where the walls are so thin you can hear your neighbor scratching himself. Your job starts early and your stomach needs something in it, even if that something is terrible. So, you head out into the streets of Rome. It is noisy, always noisy. Carts roll over cobblestones. Vendors shout in Latin. Children cry. Dogs bark. The air smells like smoke, sewage, sweat, and roasting meat, a confusing mix that somehow feels ... normal. You stop by a stall and spend your only coin on a cup of poles, a kind of grain porridge made from spelt or barley. It is bland, thick, and warm. It sticks to your ribs, which is all that matters. The man next to you is eating the same thing, but he has sprinkled it with ashes from burnt onion skins. Why? Because salt is expensive, and ash gives it flavor. You eat slowly. You try not to look at the flies landing on the edge of your cup. Later in the day, you pass through the Forum Holitorium, the produce market. There are piles of onions, cabbages, lentils, garlic, and leeks. If you are lucky, you might find some figs or dried apples, though they are half rotten and covered in dust. There is no refrigeration. There are no expiration dates. You smell everything before you buy it. Next to the vegetables, there is a meat stall. You walk past it quickly. It smells like something died 3 days ago, which it probably did. But meat is expensive. Most Romans, like you, rarely eat it. When they do, it is often the leftover scraps, organs, feet, tails, or anything no one else wanted. If you ever get to eat pork belly, it is either a festival or a miracle. Most days, your dinner is a repeat of lunch. Some bread, some boiled vegetables, maybe a bit of cheese. You eat on a broken clay plate, sitting on a step outside your apartment, watching the city pass you by. Occasionally, there are treats. Once a month, a vendor passes through your street selling sweet fritters, a dough made from flour and cheese, deep fried and covered in honey. They are sticky, crunchy, and smell like heaven, but they cost 3 days' wages. So you just stand there, watching other people eat them. You are not starving, not exactly, but you are never really full either. And you are always aware of where you are in the food chain, literally and socially. You see, in Rome, food was not just about survival. It was a class signal. What you ate, how you ate it, and where it came from. All of it told others exactly how much money you had, who you knew, and what kind of citizen you were. The poor ate grain, lots of it, pulse, porridge, rough bread, often with mold, sand, or even bits of dirt in it. The middle class might afford olive oil, cheese, and the occasional bean stew, maybe some eggs if you lived near a farm. If you knew someone in the military, maybe even some salted pork. The rich, of course, had everything. Imported spices from India, flamingos from Africa, wine aged in Greek amphorae, ice transported from the Alps. Yes, ice, just so they could cool their summer drinks. You never see that ice. But you do see free grain, Rome's version of public welfare. If you qualify, you line up at the grain dole, the unknowna, where government officials distribute wheat to citizens. It is often old, sometimes infested with bugs, but it is free, and it keeps you alive, unless you are a slave. Then, your diet depends entirely on your master. Some slaves are fed better than free citizens, especially if their job is important, but many are given just enough to stay upright. Pools, water, maybe onions if you are lucky. No variety, no choice, no dignity. And if you are a gladiator, oddly enough, your diet is strangely controlled. Gladiators are often called barley men. They eat a high-carb diet to build muscle and fat. The more fat you have, the more protection you get in the arena. It is not about looking good, it is about bleeding slower. Yes, bleeding slower. Food in ancient Rome is power. It is politics. It is identity. You can go to bed hungry and still be part of a proud empire, as long as you know your place. One day, while walking home, you see a young boy fishing in the Tiber River. The water is filthy. Everyone knows that. But he pulls out a wriggling fish and smiles. Tonight, his family will eat something special. You smile too, despite yourself. Because in a city of over 1 million people, where so much of life is harsh and bitter, even a small, smelly fish can feel like hope. By now, your body has adjusted. Sort of. You can handle the daily grain porridge, the occasional boiled greens, even the sour wine, if you do not think about it too much. But there is something growing inside you, a subtle, creeping rot. Not emotional rot, a literal one. Your teeth are decaying. Your gums are inflamed. You feel tired, even after sleep, and your breath smells worse than the alley behind a butcher shop in summer. You try to rinse your mouth with vinegar, like many Romans do. It helps a little. Doctors, if you can afford them, will tell you to eat boiled cabbage, or perhaps mix crushed pepper with honey to balance your humors. But of course, most of their advice is based on superstition and a very, very bad understanding of biology. You might even try the old Roman health tonic, a mixture of wine, garlic, sheep fat, and dried fish guts, guaranteed to cleanse the bowels. What it really does is send you running to the latrine, and you hope there is space on the bench when you get there. The latrines are communal, public, and loud. No privacy, no shame, just people doing what people must do, side by side, over a flowing channel of water that is rarely clean. You are beginning to see the full picture now. The Roman diet, despite the luxury dishes of the elite, is not balanced. It is heavy on grains, light on protein, often poor in vitamins. Most people are anemic. Many have parasites. Children die young. Adults do not live long. And yet, Rome thrives. Why? Because food is more than nutrients here. It is culture. It is ritual. It is power, served cold or hot, with sauces or without, but always with meaning. Take religion, for example. Every Roman meal begins with a small offering to the household gods, the lares and peanati, a pinch of flour, a splash of wine, a crumb of bread. You do not eat without thanking the spirits first, not unless you want bad luck. Festivals, too, are drenched in food. During Saturnalia, slaves and masters switch places for a day, and everyone gorges on cakes and wine. During harvest festivals, animals are slaughtered in sacrifice, and the best parts are offered to the gods. What remains, the less desirable cuts, go to the people, sometimes, if the priests allow it. Food is so central to life that laws exist about who can eat what. Sumptuary laws limit how many guests you can have, or how fancy your dishes can be. Why? Because too much food means too much power. And in Rome, nothing is more dangerous than appearing richer than your social rank allows. Even the act of vomiting. Yes, literal vomiting becomes ritualized. At elite feasts, some guests excuse themselves to vomit on purpose so they can return and keep eating. This is not necessarily because they are gluttons, but because abundance itself is a performance. To reject fullness is to say, I can always afford more. And now you understand the irony of the title. Your diet in ancient Rome would make you vomit, not just because of the flavors, or the textures, or the health risks, but because Roman society itself celebrates excess and deprivation at the same time. You might be chewing moldy bread outside a tenement, while a senator across the road eats stuffed dormice in saffron and honey. Both of you are Romans, but only one of you is eating Rome. The other is being eaten by it. As a modern person, you cannot help but feel sick. You live in a world with vitamins, filtered water, refrigeration, knowledge of bacteria, calories, proteins, carbs. You can Google what fiber is. A Roman cannot. And yet, there is something compelling here. The way a Roman family gathers for a meal, says a prayer, breaks bread, and eats together, even if it is humble food. The way festivals are tied to the land, to harvests, to seasons. The way food is never just fuel, but memory, myth, and meaning. Even the poorest Roman sees food as something sacred. Perhaps that is what modern people lost. You eat faster now, more alone, more processed. You throw away what a Roman would treasure. You flavor your meals with sauces and apps, but often miss the ritual that makes food feel human. So yes, you might vomit in ancient Rome, but not only because your body rebels, also because your soul does not recognize the rules anymore.